So thank you for joining today. We have Beacon Technologies, or is it Beacon? Just Beacon.
Beacon Platform.
Beacon Platform, here with Blacks in Technology. If you guys are first joining us for Blacks in Technology event, Blacks in Technology is the largest community of Black technologists. We support and promote anyone from African descent for introduction into the technology field, as well as promotion within the technology industry. So if you aren't a member, you can check out Blacks in Technology at blacksintechnology.net or the foundation website, which is foundation.blacksintechnology.net. So with that, I want to introduce Farai. And Farai, I will honor you by not trying to pronounce your last name. And if you could just introduce yourself and the Beacon team and what you guys are here to discuss.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having us. My name is Farai Mtetwa. I'm going to give the opening remarks where I'll take you through sort of my personal journey as a Black technologist, only to the point to which I start Beacon, and then I'm going to hand it over to Anya and Karat, who are our CRO and CEO, who will tell you a little bit more about the company itself. So along the journey, I think I'm going to cover a few points around kind of diversity and how it shapes our past and present and future, and talk about topical things for the world in which a networking event is on a video screen, as we're doing here. So I'm actually going to take you back to the 1940s, which is when my parents were born. My parents were born in a couple of villages in Africa, about 30 miles from each other, but they didn't meet each other there. There was a time where people believed that human beings, even Black ones, needed God, school, and healthcare. And so, in these villages, there was a church, there was a hospital, and a school. And so my parents were born in one of these hospitals, and their names are Andrew and Selena. And they were given the opportunity to go to college in the United States on opposite coasts, but they were able to find each other, right? Despite that distance, because of the network that connected them, right? So the people that went to gain a college education that were of similar background had a way to connect with each other. And so they found each other, and they would go from Oregon and Massachusetts to some state in between for dates, and then kind of go their opposite ways. So now why am I all the way back here? So the process of like sorting and grouping people is a natural thing that's existed for a long time. And the idea of initiatives that uplift a particular segment of people is not new. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions with people that uplifting one kind of person is in some ways against the interest of others. And so as we kind of go through my personal journey and the initiatives that kind of got me to FinTech, you'll kind of hear me go through, things I was unaware of at the time, but I'm very aware of now, which brings folks like us together on this kind of call to kind of have an open dialogue about things that matter to us. Okay, so speeding right along to the 1980s. So now I'm born, I'm a kid, and so in my my early years, I lived in an environment where most people were Black, and there were a few white people and others because I was in Africa. And so in this environment, I was a mediocre student, believe it or not. And my parents got a job elsewhere. I got into international school, and immediately I was an A student. And my parents were like, okay, what's happening here? So the story here is obviously in a diverse environment, anybody can succeed, including Black people. Okay, well, maybe that's not the story. Story here is that at some point in your life, your environment changes and the people that you interact with changes. And for a lot of us, when you get to the workplace, you're going to meet people of different backgrounds, or maybe everybody else is of the same background except you. And this is a real thing. And if without the initiatives that sort of exist to support us before we get to that point, a lot of people can struggle getting to a job and then having to deal with their identity. In my particular case, I ended up actually in this international community for most of my academic career. And it wasn't until I got to college that I sort of went back into a somewhat homogenous group. So I went to college in Morehouse. I'm not going to say too much about Morehouse. I think a lot of people here will already know what Morehouse is. But I am going to tell you about like the decision process that kind of got me into Morehouse, given that based on my experience, I pretty much could have gone anywhere in the world, but something drew me to one particular institution. So it just so happens that while I was so I was in school in South Africa, and a small group of Morehouse students came to make a presentation. This is a group, it's something they call the Spring Tour, where some business students are connected with corporations who could be future employers. So here, Morehouse is already in some ways a sort of a focus group for Black people, and a smaller subset of people are meeting with a major corporation. So this is a diversity initiative. This is back in the 90s. So yeah, this is something that you hear much more about now, but maybe not so much there. But anyway, in this group, I had actually applied to Morehouse, and I was waiting for my acceptance letter at the time. And I met this group of students who were all business students, and computer science was my thing. So as a kid, of course, I didn't really know what I was doing there, but the guy that brought me there, he gave me a mission, which was to find a particular guy, introduce myself, and make an impression, and that's sort of all the instructions he gave me. And so this is a networking event, the first one probably that I've been to of this nature, where I kind of met the other students. I found the guy and told him that I had applied, and had a conversation with him. Might have been like 2 or 3 minutes before he moved on to whatever he had to do next. But a week later, basically, I get an acceptance letter into Morehouse. And as you guys know, college admission is a very fair process. And there's no way whatsoever this particular conversation changed anything. Just kidding. But the important thing was that at this particular meeting, where I had to meet a person who maybe was able to help me in some way, was a very comfortable, easy one, because it was one Black kid talking to one Black dude. Very easy conversation. And I didn't know it at the time, but the real challenge is not that conversation. The challenge is when you get to your career, you're going to be interfacing with all kinds of people, and this comfort blanket that you sort of have goes away. And so you need to learn how to use these experiences that you've sort of accumulated to connect and interface with people as you build your career. And so before moving on for that, I'm just going to say one thing which you've all heard, which is closed mouths don't get fed. Everybody's heard this expression. Communication with people is a challenge that a lot of people will face, and I've faced it in some ways. But again, on the topic of the things that brought us here, the initiatives that brought us here, I ended up going to Morehouse, where being nurtured as specifically a Black person was something that was going to happen for me there. And the most important thing about that process is not so much the fact that I went to Morehouse, but the fact that, as with most people, after that, you need to find a job. So now I need to use my skills. I was pretty good with computers. I had a little debate with my mother about being a computer scientist. She thought it was great that I was good with computers, but I had to learn something else, because being good at computers by itself is not as useful. And so, sure enough, it comes time to apply for jobs. And the first company I run into is a pharmaceutical company. And so here we are in COVID days, where all of us are looking at what these companies are doing. And the guy that sort of came to interview us, he was like, yeah, your computer science degree is very valuable for our company. You can get paid a bunch of money. And I just want you to know kind of one thing as you're going through this process. This company is not a company that's curing all of the elements in the world, and the drugs we're selling are a temporary solution. This is a manufacturing business that creates products for people to sell. And your role as a technologist supporting this organization, you need to be comfortable with the job choice you've made, the thing that the company does. And so I didn't know it at the time that this was an important message that he had told me. But very next sort of group of companies that I talked to, one of them is an investment bank. No idea what an investment bank is, right? I'm a sophomore that's good at computers. But I know that investing is taking money, making it into more money, and money goes into a bank. So great. Why don't I see what these people are about? And it was an interesting experience in that I sort of went to Goldman Sachs and I joined a group called Cross-Platform Engineering. What I did there is I created a Windows service, one of those background, processes running on your machine, process that scanned your email and took some action, but a process. And it was something I'd never done before. I showed my colleagues the code, and it turns out that my code sucked. So I had to learn how to write professional code on the internship. And they did. The guys fed me with information. I got my thing ready to ship. And in order to ship my software, I had to go to find another group called NT Engineering. If you don't know what NT is, good for you. But basically, this was the group that made those install wizards for internal software. So I find the guy, I navigate the building, find the guy, give him my software, and basically they format a machine, put the OS on, put the Big Brother software on, take a snapshot, put my software on, take a snapshot. Whatever that diff is, that's the install wizard. I was like, oh, wow, that was impressive. The install things usually take a whole bunch of time. What is it actually doing? But anyway, so guy deploys my software. It's in the internal app store. That's the last I heard of it. So now here's where things start to sort of come together from my own personal journey. So when I'm done with this internship, I go through an exit interview. And the polite thing to say when somebody's given you a job that's made you the most money you've ever made is, I had a great time. This was a great experience. Everybody here was smart. Thank you for having me. So I probably said all those things. And then I said, so I didn't learn what an investment bank is. I created like a Windows background process that I never met anybody that uses it. I could have done this anywhere. So somehow I was able to have this conversation, and then I left. How did I have this conversation? Well, I was very comfortable with the person that recruited me and got to that point. They cared and they were invested in me as a person. And so I could have a good, comfortable conversation with me about what was actually on my mind. And I think, so this is my journey got me to this point, and this was an important conversation. The thing that happens next after I've left is, this is where we get into how I actually end up in FinTech is, in the background process, they're like, we found one that craves excitement and danger. Send him to the trading floor, send him to use SecDB. And this is exactly what this person was looking for based on what they've told us. And they were absolutely right. I showed up. The very first day, they showed me how to use the thing. I was able to make code changes. I was able to deploy them to somebody nearby. Every time I did that, they were like, this is very useful. You know what's also useful? Do this other thing. And my job was less so, my boss gave me an assignment, I did it, I handed it in. It was make yourself useful with the people that are doing the thing that your company is doing. And basically, that's the journey ever since then for me, has been making yourself useful with the people around you, with the skills that you have. Okay, so with all that, I'm going to hand it over to Anya, who will actually tell you a little bit more about Beacon, the company, and Karat, the co-founder and CEO, who can tell you a little bit more about the platform.
Absolutely. Thank you, Farai. Hi, everybody. I'm Anya Butov. I'm Chief Revenue Officer at Beacon. And I'll share just a couple of slides to give you a sense of what Beacon does, where we fit within the technology landscape, and a little bit of what we're doing in diversity initiatives. I'm not, I'm not Black. I can't speak about being a Black person in technology, but I did want to share a few thoughts on being a woman in technology, which is another historically underrepresented group. So let me kick it off with a little bit of background on Beacon, and then I'll share a little bit more of my personal perspective before I turn it over to our CEO and some of my colleagues who will share their stories as well. So let me just present. Can everybody see the Beacon logo? Yeah. Great. So the first slide I wanted to put up is to just give you a sense of where Beacon fits into the technology landscape. You see a lot of logos here that you've probably heard of. Beacon is a younger company. You may not have heard of us before. And what this slide represents, if I go bottom up, is the 3 core Beacon products and how you can think of us in the context of other technologies that are more established. As everybody knows, the advent of the cloud has changed a lot of industries. Financial services is no different. So what Beacon does in a nutshell is makes it easy for financial services clients to use the cloud, to leverage all of the modern technologies that are out there from the perspective of database technology, using open source tools, deploying things at scale, using the cloud at scale. But because our background is in financial services, many of us come from investment banks, just like Farai. What we've also built on top of Beacon is a suite of financial engineering models and applications that make it easy for our clients to not just use the cloud, but have a foundation that is specific to their business, to the financial services business. That's our front office suite. The App Store and trading partners, this is essentially our mission is to build the future of financial markets on the cloud. And we believe that that future is going to be an ecosystem of providers. It's not going to be a black box like, with all due respect to a company like Bloomberg, right? It's essentially a black box. Beacon just takes a different view. Most of our clients use Bloomberg, nothing against those kinds of technologies at all, but where we fit into the landscape is to foster an open ecosystem of tools for both development and for business users within financial services primarily, but also with other kinds of clients. And what makes us different is the client ecosystem layer here that you see at the top. I'll just maybe move to the next slide just to show you, going left to right here, Beacon includes trading and risk management applications, these among many others that are unique to financial services. But in the middle panel is how we really differentiate ourselves. We give our clients the source code and the developer tools that we've used to build those applications. So when you add software defined infrastructure services and a lot of cloud technology tools, it's a pretty unique combination that, again, is transparent. It empowers clients who code, it empowers technical users. And it also, as Farai explained, that interaction between a technologist and a business user, it fosters that creativity, that innovation, that speed of deployment between technologists and business users. Our clients, we have a few dozen of our clients. We've been around about 7 years. Even though we come from investment banks, we have a lot of clients across the industry in insurance, in asset management, in hedge funds, in commodity and energy trading companies. Like I said, the cloud has changed things for a lot of companies, a lot of industries, with the focus on companies hiring STEM majors and technologists in all parts of the organization. All of those people, all of those companies need really good developer tools. And this is why Beacon has really differentiated itself as a platform that empowers this future of the workforce. I'll just throw up a slide. There's a lot of examples here for how our clients use Beacon. And again, because of the core platform is so powerful and it's so versatile, you'll see a lot of different use cases here, everything from financial transmission rights, which is a kind of a niche energy product, to asset liability management, which is the bread and butter of insurance companies, to investment banks who are dealing with a lot of regulatory requirements, who are launching data science teams, who are looking to externalize insights to clients. Beacon helps with all of those things. I'll mention kind of our values and speak a bit about our diversity initiatives. So clients first, integrity, technical excellence, respect, empowering our employees, diversity and inclusion. I'll just note that, since this is a technology event, when I joined Beacon, I think Jennifer and I were the only 2 people who did not code. We are still in the minority at Beacon. However, our sales, marketing, HR, et cetera, teams have grown a lot, but we're very much a technology first company. And we believe a lot in diversity and inclusion. These aren't just words to us. We believe that diversity makes us better people. It gives us the opportunity to serve our clients better. And we try to really make our diversity inclusion initiatives practical. So it's a big focus for us in recruiting. We're making an effort to post all of our jobs to various kinds of boards for for women, for minorities. I met with the founder yesterday of Sisters in Sales, which is a fantastic organization. We are doing volunteering, community service. And so we're, this is a very big focus for us. I just wanted to say a couple of notes before I turn it over to Kirat, our CEO. What I've found is that, I've worked in an investment bank, I've worked in the federal government as a senior advisor, I've worked in technology. I was always in the minority as a woman in each of those industries. But one thing that I've found now that I'm in more of a leadership position at Beacon is that if a company is a good place for women, chances are it's going to be a good place for other underrepresented groups as well. That's really been my experience, and that's how I think of it. I can't walk in everybody's shoes, but what I try to do is make Beacon a good workplace for women, which means it's a good workplace for parents. It's a good workplace for people who have traditionally not been given a chance to prove themselves. We focus a lot on promoting, and we have women who are in management positions in engineering, in product, on our board. And so that's kind of what I hope to bring to the table with an event like this and with supporting a community like this. I can only speak for my own experience and try to pay it forward, but I think there's a very strong correlation between a workplace that is good for one underrepresented group and having that workplace be good for others as well. So I'll turn it over to Kirat.
Well, thank you very much. And also, folks, Dennis, thank you very much for having us here. Really appreciate being able to make a connection with the community. And thanks, Anya and Farai for opening. I probably don't have too much more to say about Beacon since I think Anya has covered it. So, maybe I'll just share a little bit, my personal story as well and like why I think diversity is important to me. So, I grew up in India too, in a small village. I'm Sikh. Well, you can't tell, so I don't have a turban anymore. This was a long time ago. When I was 4, I went to Delhi, and of course, I was pretty much the only Sikh in my school, which was kind of interesting. And my dad loved to tinker with computers, so he had his, he had this like little computer, which was a ZX81, if anyone remembers, in the early 80s. It had 2 kilobytes of RAM. So of course, I started tinkering with it too, and I was pretty good at math and computers, just probably because my dad had them lying around. And I think my mom used to tell me exactly what Farai's mom said to him is that, yes, you're pretty good at math and computers, but you need to talk to people and be good at other things too. I would of course dismiss that. Then I got to the US. I went to college here, got a scholarship, but came over here by myself. And of course, I think this was 92, so I was like one of 5 Indians in the college too. So it's always interesting trying to figure out how to fit in, to find, other people who have similar backgrounds to me. But I think what is really interesting about that is that you get exposed to all these things because you're not in your comfort zone, and you try to figure out how to make yourself better. And then I went to Goldman, and just like Farai as well, that was my first job out of college. And, again, pretty much I was like the only Indian in this strat group. And of course, pretty good at tech, but, everyone sort of pigeonholes Indians into like this thing. You're good at tech, you're not management, you basically sit in a corner and write code. And, that's very true. It's very easy to do that. But I think, again, like now on our board, for example, we have a woman who actually, Anya used to work for at Goldman. One of our board members actually happens to be Indian, just luck, just by chance in a sense. And I think he said the same thing too. If you see other people like you in management positions, it makes you think like you can do the same thing too. And I think it's really creating that connection and that network. And I think that's why I think it's really important for us to reach out to other communities, because otherwise what we end up doing is we end up going to the same people whom we know, whom we worked with, and hiring them. And I think for us, broadening that community and that network just increases diversity, and we find the best people, and we create a great working environment for ourselves. Maybe just, I think all of us do a bit of everything from, we're a small company. So, we write code, we talk to clients, we solve problems for folks. Yeah, I just turn it over to other folks as well. And of course, we can talk about the kind of stuff we do at Beacon as well later. Turn it over to Kevin or Ben or Uche, whichever one of you folks.
Hi, yes, thank you. Thanks for the introduction, Karat. So hi, everybody. My name is Kevin Ho. I'll give you a quick background of my origin story. I've been a software engineer here at Beacon for about 2.5, 3 years now. And my journey here is a little bit unconventional, I would say. So previous to Beacon, I was actually a professional dancer, choreographer, and teacher for over 10 years in New York City. And after retiring from dance, I found myself hunting for a second act in my life. You know, as a dancer, you retire when you're 30 because you've just destroyed your body like a professional athlete would. And after a brief stint in digital marketing, I found myself drawn to technology, as I'm sure many people in this audience can relate. And as we speak about diversity, I think there's also an element here where I want to speak to that is diversity in backgrounds. You know, we don't just hire people with traditional CS backgrounds as engineers. So my father had actually been a developer at Oracle in the 80s, and he had encouraged that I take computer science pretty early in my middle school and high school education. Now, tell your parents that you want to be a professional dancer, and they'll say, maybe you should get a second skill. they would not be like, oh yeah, be a computer science person. Like, that'd be great. My dad would have shouted from the rooftops if I told him I wanted to be a computer engineer early on. But no, I wanted to be an artist. But I did have some fundamentals in Java at the time, making little text games on MS-DOS and tinkering around with Visual Basic. This was the early 90s. I know I'm aging myself a little bit here. So I'm hunting for a second act in my life. I was a dancer, but I didn't want to work in the arts anymore either. It wasn't that I wanted to depart that industry entirely. So I decided to look into some online learning platforms like Codecademy, Code Wars, and as a result, found the problems very interesting. I then decided to get trained, like really trained, if I was to pursue a career in this. So I applied and was accepted to Full Stack Academy of Code. That's a coding boot camp here in New York City. I know a lot of major cities have them. I know this is a global audience. Most cities have them now. It's a pretty big trend. They are for-profit schools, so I would encourage you to definitely vet them out thoroughly. But Full Stack Academy was a great choice for me. What happened was that Full Stack was also in the same building as Beacon's office down in Wall Street, which was exciting. And I will say that the 21 weeks, that's all they give you. They take that 21 weeks and they mold you from a muggle to a developer, was probably one of the hardest periods of my life. The kind of rewiring that has to occur, how I had to fundamentally rebuild and neuroplasticize my brain to learn to speak this entirely new language of technology. It's tremendous, but also really awesome. So after graduating, I became a teaching fellow at Full Stack, a sort of internship that allows me to serve as mentors and educators for the next cohort of students, grading their exams and so on and so forth. And I will say this, at Full Stack, the program was rigorous for a reason, because I was both their client as a student and their product. They want me to succeed so that they succeed as a company. And it was a for-profit institution, so both sides are taking a gamble in some ways there. But I did the risk analysis myself where, I could go back to school to pursue a master's in computer science in some way since I already had my bachelor's, or like invest in an upfront 21 weeks experiment and say, all right, let's see if this even works out. So my takeaway from this journey is twofold. One, learning technology and coding specifically is about literacy. It's about a common cultural competency that, as we are in the age of the Tesla rockets and machine learning and election hacking, it's about being able to join that conversation, So I encourage everyone actively, no matter what age, to give it a shot. If you find yourself as a non-coder, give that a shot to join that conversation in some way, to learn how computers talk and how we talk to it. And two, my takeaway here is that my non-traditional background is an asset in my field. I've really come to realize in the last 2-3 years working here at Beacon that computer science is just like a language, like French. Learning it doesn't get you a job, doesn't bring value innately to a company. Rather, it's all of your other skills and traits, being able to produce, being able to solve problems creatively. So for me, it was my public performance experience, my teaching experience, my creativity that has brought me the most success and led to the most fulfilling work that I do here at Beacon. So I encourage everyone to approach it like learning Italian or Japanese, but also bring yourself wholly to your technology career and not stitch your identity solely on your ability to produce code. And so lastly, a note about diversity. For me, it boils down to one word, which is permission. I was tapped by Jennifer as one of the first members of our newly formed Diversity and Inclusion Committee, and that has been something really special. The more we build structures in place that reinforce diversity actively, that strategically approach inclusion just like we would ROIs and project scoping, the more permission I get to be authentically me in the workplace. And by expanding those circles, I get to say, hey, I belong here too. You know, my gay, queer, dancer, creative coder self can bring value as an engineer here. I can lend a unique perspective, say for when hiring for a new role. I can help alleviate a client's concern while onboarding Beacon, as I've been there so many times before, confronted with the daunting prospect of doing something new for the first time. I can be vulnerable to say, I don't know, I'm not sure, can you help me? And so to borrow the words of Brene Brown, giving myself that permission is incredibly freeing and is the only way I know to innovation, courage, and creativity. So I love that aspect of my work, the diversity that is here at Beacon and the active encouragement of all voices to be included at the table. I'll end my talk there and introduce the next person, the next speaker, which will be Ben Pryke.
Thank you, Kevin. Hi guys, so my name is Ben Pryke. I've been part of Beacon's team in London for over 3 years now. Now I'm obviously super white. I am so white that people sometimes ask if I'm ill. No, that's just how white I am. But I like to do something similar to what Farai did actually, and talk about my background as a second-generation immigrant here in the UK. So my mum's dad was from Latvia. So I'm a quarter Latvian. He came before the Second World War to London for work. He had a family back in Latvia and kids, but when the war broke out, he couldn't return home. And after the war, he also couldn't return home because the Iron Curtain came down, which meant that after some time, he ended up remarrying in the UK and having 2 kids. He remarried while not knowing what had happened to his family originally. And so my mum and her brother, my uncle, grew up in an interesting world where they didn't know if their half siblings were even alive or not. And the impact on me is, you know, that doesn't impact me directly, but what does is the fact that half of my family is kind of missing. I have no cousins, really tiny family. There's literally 5 people other than me left now. And so I was growing up, we had this really tiny social network, and I was in a bubble, didn't really learn any social skills. So when my dad brought home our first computer, there was a throwaway from work, a Windows 98 machine. When I was 11, I ended up spending a large amount of my time from age 11 to 18 sitting on that computer and very quickly figuring out, oh, I can figure out how to make it work and how to make it do things, and how to build stuff using that computer. And so, you know, I started doing these silly things. I figured out that in PowerPoint, you could make games because you can add these click events to various different things. So if you click on something in a slide, it can take you to another slide, and immediately you have an adventure game. And I would make quizzes and silly games where you had to move the mouse around and not touch the edge of the maze and all that silly stuff. And this led me to trying out other games. I tried this thing called RPG Maker. I tried Dark Basic. And then my friend gave me a bootleg copy of Flash MX on a CD. And I was like, wow, Flash games, this is amazing. So this was back in the day when that wasn't the pariah of the internet. But it led me to kind of web technologies and creating websites, HTML, JavaScript, all this stuff. So by the time I was 18, I immediately knew that what I wanted to do was computer science. I wanted to get into a university and do that. And I did. I got into Bristol University. And, you know, thinking back to something Kevin said, actually, despite all of what I've just said, my favorite subject while I was studying my A-levels, which we do from like age 17 and 18 here in the UK, my favorite subject was English literature. I loved that. We had a really eccentric teacher, and I think that helped it, but it's something that they didn't care about when I was interviewing for university, I was told, no, we don't care about the English literature stuff. That doesn't matter. But it helped me so much throughout the entirety of that course. For a lot of our hand-ins, we had to write something. We had to write a report. And the way that they were marking you was based on the report as much as it was your code often. And so it meant that I had this massive upper hand on a lot of people who hadn't spent time studying how to communicate, how to use language. Yeah, I decided, actually, kind of funnily enough, while I was at university, I started to figure out through alcohol that I could learn how to communicate with people a bit better. When we're all a bit drunk, it was a little bit easier. And I started learning social skills. So I stopped doing all of the programming in my spare time. And that meant that by the time I got to the end of my degree, I wasn't ready to stop being a student. And so I decided to try to do a PhD. That led me to Edinburgh University to do a PhD in machine learning, where I actually ended up not really fitting in, not really liking it. They didn't support me, and due to a kind of whole host of problems that collided, I figured I should start looking elsewhere. I found an opportunity to co-found a company, and that sounded like a great idea. So I went and started to do my own thing, and very quickly realized, oh, this is a lot of work. We don't have a reputation, and it's really hard to raise any money. So I ended up taking to give me a baseline of pay, I actually ended up cycling for Deliveroo for about 20 hours a week, where I was in Edinburgh, famously hilly city in Scotland. And I would spend 20 hours cycling up and down hills, delivering food to people. And then I would go home, work on the startup. And I was thinking, this is very hard work. And when I heard about Beacon, I thought, this sounds like a good opportunity to join a bunch of people, to learn a bunch of things, and work with a team where I'm not so limited by the fact that I was the sole technologist in that company. And maybe I can kind of take a little bit of a break, in a sense, from working really hard for something that I was thinking would take years to get to go anywhere. So what I'll do is end by talking a little bit about Beacon. Here I've worked on, I kind of work simultaneously in 2 UI teams. I've done some client work. I've led some of our machine learning work. And one of the things, I think maybe the key thing that I've really liked is that, you know, we're relatively new. We're not some big corporation where you come in and you're just a gear that has to, you know, cog that has to turn in the machine. We're very dynamic, and the fact that I have worked in these teams is a result of that. We take on people and really want the best of them, and so there is flexibility still as we're figuring out what the future of our company is, for people to slot into the places that make most sense for them. And I kind of think of it a little bit as, for startups, you have startup accelerators and startup incubators, and Beacon for me has been a little bit of a kind of person incubator or person accelerator, where I've learned so much in the 3 years that I've been here, and really been able to go from a place where I hadn't got any previous business experience to feeling like I get what we're doing, I understand where we're going, and I you know, try to drive that forward. So it's been an interesting journey. I'm not sure who is speaking next. So
I think it's Uche.
Uche?
Yeah.
Cool. I'll hand over to Uche.
Hello, thanks a lot, Ben. Hello, everyone. My name is Uche Ujuku. I'm just going to give a quick intro and then talk about Beacon. So I have been in Beacon now for about 3 months. Just a little background. I studied computer science. I pretty much moved to the UK. I'm in the London office, by the way. And I moved to the UK in 2012, born and raised in Nigeria, had never traveled outside of Nigeria before 2012. And 2012 was pretty much the first time I left the country of Nigeria and moved to the UK to do a master's. And so when I got a job after my master's, it was a very massive culture shift for me, because I didn't know how to interact with people, how to refer to people, certain terminologies that I used, that my accent as well. And so all of that, I kind of like always felt different, and sometimes a little bit insecure, but just in ensuring that I kind of fit in. And that I kind of like carried on. So when just moving on a few years after that now, having found Beacon, I started working at London Stock Exchange after my master's, and then worked at JP Morgan, and then at JP, looking at Athena and the application they had built. I later found Beacon through our CEO, whom you've heard. And one of the reservations, to be honest, I had in mind was, look, it's a small company. I'm not sure if it's going to be, very inclusive. I'm not sure if, I'm going to be, fully accepted with my whole cultural background and everything. And I'm not sure there is enough structure on there to that has all of the inclusivity all inside of it. And those were the concerns that I pretty much had. And one thing I realized when I joined was the difference in culture that that I brought was something that was more of an addition. One of the challenges that I had over the years was when you have such of a different cultural background, you're looking for a place where rather than you looking at it in the sense of, oh, let me fit in, it's more about coming in exactly how you are and bringing in the additions that you have. And the difference, and that's pretty much the difference that you make. And that's something I realized, that rather than, trying to change myself to fit into what exactly I found, literally just being myself and bringing in the difference that I made, or the ideas that I had, or the things that I knew, and, I had learned even from my upbringing, down to my education. And even though, it's tech, and, in tech, you are coding, and I mean, everybody speaks, if you are coding in Python or in Java, it's the same language, irrespective of where you're from. The ideas and your thought process, and even the way you communicate as well, there is diversity in that, and that is more of an addition, and that's more of a positive than trying to hide away from it. And one of the things I found in Beacon, even in my few months here, is it's something that is very much welcome. You're not being told to hide that space of you, or trying to change who you are to fit a certain frame of working. It's pretty much welcoming your ideologies and welcoming your frame of mind and thought process, and communication process as well. And that is something that, I've found even here, coming from a completely different cultural background. And even though there are things that I'm obviously still learning as time goes on, it's been a very, very interesting journey, that, I can always say that, no matter the background you come from, no matter the place you've been, or, where you are right now, or how long you've been there right now, it's good to just take your diversity as something that is good, rather than trying to hide it, bring you all out, let it be something that is seen as a positive, rather than something that is hidden. But yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. I do DevOps here in Beacon, and it's very interesting. I know a number of people have said it here, but you get different aspects of it as well. Because it's a small company, you just don't do the tech as well. If you want to, be part of the client conversations, understand a lot of the business, understand a lot of the partnerships as well, how exactly they work, and how they're integrated into what makes the company stand out. It's something that you can really get involved in a broad range of things, and it's you grow quite quickly by doing that, because you're not just focused on one little thing, you're focused on quite a broad range of things, and your ideologies of how a small company can grow, it's really broadened, and that's something that I find such a plus. But yeah, that's it for me. I think it's Jen.
I guess I'm going to take over from here now. Just, hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Skrapitz. I run human resources and recruiting at Beacon. In the interest of time, I didn't think we'd take this much time, which is great because we all have our own stories to tell. I'm going to keep it kind of short so that you do have some time for questions at the end. But first, I want to thank everyone for the opportunity you've given us to speak to you all. Now you've met our team. And so I guess now the next question is, how do you stay in touch with us, right? And, I think one of the things that I'm so proud of with this group is, as we talked about over and over again, diversity is more than just words. And we are a better group based on, our diversity and our backgrounds, and we respect each other and we do as much as we can. For recruiting purposes, I always find it easy to sell Beacon. One, look at the group that we have, and everyone is so passionate about what we do, so it makes my job really easy to sell Beacon. I also talk about a lot of times, we all came, a number of us here on this panel have come from investment banking. I should start saying that I also came from investment banking. And there's nothing more refreshing to go to a company like this where, there are no silos. And again, for those, I'm dating myself by using that term, but that was a big investment banking term that, they're going to eliminate the silos and we're going to cross populate each other and learn from each other and things like that. It never actually happened. Here at Beacon, it happens all the time. And I think it's one of the most important aspects of what we do on a daily basis. Kirat has always put it best in one of his podcasts. He said, look at Jen. She never was a human resource person before she joined here. How did I get started? I rolled my sleeves up. I got my hands dirty and let's go and let's do it. And that's what Beacon's about. Kirat is our CEO and co-founder, and he's in the day-to-day business all day long. He is in the code all day long. So again, I can't speak enough about Beacon and how proud I am of this company and to be working for this company. But how do you get in touch with us? So now this is where me being a trader and me now working with technology is not a good thing. So I'm going to try to share my screen. Anya, I might actually need you.
I'll just do it.
Sorry about that. I'm trying to pull it up, but I can't get it onto my one laptop. So this is how you stay in touch with us. We are on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we have a YouTube channel and a website. And Ani, if you go to the next slide, on our Beacon homepage, we do have our listings of jobs that we have posted and that we're looking to fill. You have met with everybody here in the group, but you of course can get our contact details. I think Dennis, if I'm not mistaken, you have all of that information and you can pass it on. But in addition to just hiring, we also are open to mentorship, internships, anything like that. So we want to stay in touch with you all, and if there's anything we can do to help you, we are here for you. I guess, Dennis, you had mentioned you wanted to kind of open it up for questions, I think, or is that?
Sure. So if anyone has a question, you can raise your hand. I can promote you to talk, or you can ask it in the chat if you're shy.
So thanks, Jen. And just also wanted to mention too, we'd love to also just stay in touch. If there's any questions we can answer, if folks would like to hear about what we do day to day, or, any experience we can share from the industry, FinTech, would love to see how we can continue to do that and engage with the community.
I'm going to put our links on. So again, oop, I sent it privately, didn't I, Kirat? Sorry. Again, this is not my area of expertise. There you go.
There is one question that came in the chat. Chris would like to understand the business model a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe you can take a little stab at it. So basically, we worked at banks for a bunch of years, and I think what we found was that there's a lot of common, think about it as a shared pain. Most banks, capital market institutions are writing software and analytics to price derivatives and to figure out how to take market data, use that to price, come up with pre-trade pricing for derivatives, take on that risk and manage it. And when we started at Goldman, that was like one of the first things we worked on in the late 90s. And instead of building applications there, we ended up building platforms to enable developers and quants to actually solve these problems for business users. So we, fast forward to 2014, we decided what's missing in the vendor space for capital markets was an open platform where you can actually use this as a toolkit and build, sort of your edge or your own models on top of this without having to build the whole stack. So we offer Beacon as a cloud platform. It's a subscription-based service, and we manage cloud infrastructure for our clients. We probably run something like 20,000 cores at least every day on behalf of our clients across APAC, Europe, US. And we also provide models and applications for folks, so whether they're end users or quants. And we do a bit of consulting as well for our clients to help them, figure out how to use the platform. It's an app development platform as well as a quant platform. And I just saw another question here in terms of non-tech positions. Yeah, so we have folks who are sales, project managers, business development reps, technical writers. As well as developers.
And Robbie had a question. If you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yes, good afternoon or good everybody. Robert here from London. I was wondering, I'm about to leave, graduate from university in the spring 2021, and I was wondering how long do you plan to run your internships for? Because I'm looking to break into this type of environment, FinTech. I'm doing a computing degree, 4 years part-time, mature student, new career change. So I'm looking for this opportunity, but I'd like to baby step my way in. So an internship would be great, just to a hands-on, all eyes in the business before I actually want to say, right, let's go for it full time. That's about it, really. But thank you for the presentation. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a bunch of internships in both London and New York. So yeah, I think that's a great way to get started too, because it's easy then to see what a bunch of different, I guess, divisions of Beacon do and get a flavor of everything. And I think we had a bunch of folks who were interns who we hired as well.
Yeah, the last group of interns definitely, some of them, if they chose to, wanted to rotate between different teams and get a flavor of sort of different aspects of the platform.
So my contact details in the chat for those who want to reach out to me, in regards to internships or even positions or mentorship. You can feel free to get in contact with me and we'll go from there. Like Kirat said, we usually last summer, or I should say this past summer, we had 3 interns in London. I think it was 3, and about 5 in New York. And so we're looking to do the same or something similar again.
Oh, and we have non-technical internships too for
Yes.
sales and marketing. And so, keeping that in mind, which might be
Maybe I see a couple of questions here about engineering. Maybe Farai, you can talk a little bit about, maybe combine them a bit, a typical day-to-day for a software engineer. And I also saw a question here about UI UX development, cross-disciplinary mentorship. It would be great if you could just chat a bit more about what an engineering role and experience looks like at Beacon.
So let me, so we have a bunch of different engineering teams. Beacon starts all the way from kind of underlying cloud technology, AWS, Azure. And so we have folks that build out the tools that we use to bring these environments to life, install packages and software, and get the machinery that our clients need to actually run something. And then on top of that, the platform, then our engineering teams do a couple of different tasks around the Beacon product in the financial services world. So we have a product team that's building out analytics models and applications, and these would be the kinds of these are the kind of applications that people in finance are using: trading systems, trading applications, sort of middle office tools. We've got at any given time lots of potential clients that want to do a project with us to see what they can do with our tool. So we have a lot of engineers that are focused on working on solving a business project as a pilot project with clients, and typically those then turn into full-time Beacon clients. And from there, there's a journey of kind of clients building things on their own, and in some cases us building and adding to our offering alongside client needs. And Kevin, you want to talk a little bit about the Glint team?
Sure, I can do that. And I can also talk about the day-to-day, like my day-to-day. So I'm an engineer on the Glint team. Glint is one of our products that we offer that allows you to basically create, in a short nugget, create full stack rich web applications entirely in Python. And so as an engineer on the Glint team, my day-to-day usually starts with a daily stand-up. We do employ Agile across most teams here at Beacon. But the level at which we adhere to Agile practices differs from team to team and the project managers that are assigned to that. After a stand-up, there's usually, if it's a week where we're starting a sprint, there might be some sprint tickets, tickets that need refinement, tickets that need further design. And then there's a big chunk of time where I'm very much self-directed in how I allocate my time and resources. So I try to group my client-facing work that requires a certain side of my brain in the mornings, and then I do a lot of my engineering stuff when there's less noise in the afternoons. Also, because half of our team is in London, I try to prioritize my mornings for meetings. And then I usually try to, because we work in sort of daily cycles amongst the team, so usually I reserve some time at the end of my day for code reviews that then can get responded to the next morning, which is the top of London time for the London office when they open. And then along the way, if there are other initiatives or projects, such as diversity and inclusion stuff that I do, I try to get to that as well. So my day-to-day, I would say it's interesting because before I became an engineer, I thought that 100% of my time would be spent coding, but it's actually not that. And a lot of it is around discussions and design and how to approach solving a problem. And so those kind of meetings, those kind of discussions take just as much time as implementation and putting pen to paper, or rather finger to keyboard. Yeah, that's about a day-to-day.
There was a question around remote work too. Someone asked, do you offer any remote roles?
So in the past, we have not, but now post-COVID, I think our world everyone's world has changed a bit. So again, we have not in the past, but I think we now are more open to.
Yeah, exactly. I think definitely open to it. I think really, as we find, we are a pretty global company. So for example, I usually spend my evenings chatting with Tokyo. And then, as Kevin said, mornings chatting with London, and really doesn't matter where you are. And I think we are very fortunate in this industry to be able to work from home, to be very productive and engage with our clients. So definitely open to it. sure finance will tell me something where we have to figure out the tax implications of all these things. And Jen is probably cringing that we have to figure out how to, deal with payroll in different states, but we'll figure all those things out.
We always do, Kirat. We always do.
So we're just about at time. If there are any last questions, we can probably do one more if anyone has a question.
Okay.
All right. Well, I don't see any more questions in the queue. So thank you guys. I appreciate the time. And if there are any other follow-ups for any of the panelists, feel free to reach out to myself. blacksintechnology.net is the URL. You can email us there, get in touch with me. I can put you in touch with the appropriate resources at Beacon. And otherwise, thank you guys and have a good rest of the afternoon and evening.
Actually, I just wanted to answer one question. Someone had mentioned, question about internships, and all our internships have been paid. So, and I think we, as Anya had said too, I think all of us have families, and I think we try to be as flexible as possible. Like for example, I knock off at 5 every day to go feed my kids. It's very nice to be able to have dinner with them. Yeah, hope that answers the question.
And I think there was others about non-technical roles. I posted my contact information as well. We have a number open in sales and project management. So happy to chat about that. I think, Beacon is a great place for people who are looking to make a career transition. A lot of the skills that we're looking for are very transferable. And you've heard Kevin and Ben kind of talk about coming to Beacon without a background in financial services and doing very well here. So just, if you're interested, please reach out. We're very open-minded, and we just want to find the best people possible. Lord knows we have enough people who came from Goldman at Beacon. So if you don't have an investment banking background, it's not a deal breaker.
And again, I put in the chat, how to reach us. So please feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you. Thanks, folks. Thanks again, Dennis.
Thank you.
Dennis. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.